Before we start, I need you to do something that might feel strange, but it is necessary for the data we are collecting. Go to the comment section right now, type the name of your city, and answer this one question. Have you felt it? I'm not talking about anxiety or the news cycle. I'm talking about a physical sensation of waiting. The reports coming into my office suggest that 3 Atlas isn't just broadcasting a radio signal. It is emitting a resonance that sensitive individuals are actually feeling. If you've had sudden sleeplessness or a feeling of being watched in the last 72 hours, log it below. We are building a global map of the phenomenon. Now, let me tell you why the observation phase is officially ended. I have spent 50 years of my life speaking the spent language of mathematics. I have found comfort in the certainty of equations, in the predictable orbits of planets, and in the quiet, indifferent laws of physics. But the file that landed on my encrypted server 3 days ago has taken that comfort and shattered it. I am looking at numbers that shouldn't exist. I am looking at a trajectory that defies gravity. And I am telling you with absolute clarity that the object we have been calling 3I Atlas is not a comet. It never was. Before I show you the numbers, before I explain why the laws of physics seem to have been suspended in our solar system for the last 72 hours, I need to ask you a question that has nothing to do with science and everything to do with your own biology. I want you to close your eyes for a second and think back to this morning. Did you wake up with a headache? Not a sharp pain, but a pressure right behind the eyes. Have you noticed a low frequency ringing in your ears that silence doesn't cure? Or perhaps a sudden, unexplainable urge to look at the sky? A feeling of anticipation that you can't quite put into words? If you answered yes, you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not imagining it. I'm sitting in an office that has been my sanctuary for 40 years. I have shelves full of textbooks on quantum mechanics, general relativity, and astrophysics. I have spent my life believing that the universe is a place of cold, hard math. But the file that landed on my encrypted server 3 days ago has taken that belief and shattered it. I am looking at numbers that shouldn't exist. I am looking at a trajectory that defies gravity. And I'm telling you with absolute clarity that the object we have been calling 3I Atlas is not a comet. It never was. The narrative we were sold, the safe, comfortable story about a dusty snowball tumbling out of the Oort cloud, is dead. It died the moment the new telemetry data came in. What has replaced it is a reality that is far more terrifying and, ironically, far more hopeful. And the data suggests that for the last year, humanity hasn't just been tracking a rock. We have been taking a test. And as of this morning, the pencils are down. The test is over. We are now entering a phase that the classified report on my desk refers to only as the seeding, to understand where we are going. We have to go back to the anomaly that started this. The first crack in the illusion was early January. The Atlas Survey Telescope in Hawaii picked up a faint infrared signature moving inbound past the orbit of Jupiter. Standard procedure. We logged it, labeled it C2024 S1, and expected it to swing around the sun and leave, just like thousands of others. But then the physics broke. In deep space, velocity is king. It is the only currency that matters. Objects do not slow down without a transaction. You need friction, you need a collision, or you need a massive gravitational well. 3I Atlas had none of those. It was drifting through the empty void between the planets. Yet, over a period of 6 weeks, while every model predicted it should be accelerating as it fell toward the sun, it decelerated. It slowed down by exactly 0.003%. Now, to a layman, that number sounds like a rounding error. It sounds like a speck of dust in a camera lens, but in celestial mechanics, that is not an error. That is a scream. It is the equivalent of a bullet fired from a gun deciding to slow down in mid-air just to get a better look at its target. A comet cannot do that. A rock cannot do that. Only a machine can do that. I tried to rationalize it. We all did. The scientific community is built on skepticism. We wrote papers about outgassing, theorizing that hidden pockets of ice were sublimating and acting like tiny natural thrusters. We lied to ourselves because the alternative that something was driving this object was too big to handle, but the spectroscopic analysis killed the lie. There was no gas cloud. There was no tail. The object was solid, metallic, and dense. It wasn't venting, it was braking. Then came the signal. This is the part that hasn't made the evening news and likely never will until it's too late to hide. A colleague of mine at the Deep Space Network, a woman who is not prone to flights of fancy, a woman I have trusted with my life, called me in the middle of the night. Her voice was trembling. She didn't say hello, she just said, "It's answering." They had picked up a transmission. It wasn't the random static of a pulsar or the background hum of the universe. It was sharp, pulse, and structured. It was on the X-band frequency, a frequency used for high-fidelity data transfer. It lasted exactly 47 seconds. 12 hours later, it repeated, but this time, the triangulation confirmed the source wasn't the object itself. It was coming from something near the object. 3I Atlas wasn't just a probe, it was a relay. It was talking to something else, and something else was talking back. Imagine the implications of that. We have spent decades listening for a message from the stars, expecting a greeting or a math problem. We built the SETI program on the hope of hearing a distant hello. But what if the first thing we hear isn't a greeting? What if the first thing we hear is a status report sent from a spy satellite that has been watching us for centuries? The signal contained embedded data. It wasn't poetry. It wasn't philosophy. It was a sequence of mathematical constants. The fine structure constant, pi, the mass ratios of protons to electrons. It was the universal language of physics. But it wasn't a test for us. It was a command, a code. It was the object confirming its location and unlocking its hard drive 3 days after that command was received. 3I Atlas executed a maneuver that made the blood drain from the faces of everyone in the NASA emergency panel. It shifted its inclination by 22 degrees. Do you have any idea of the energy required to move a 400-meter wide object that drastically while it's moving at interstellar speeds? We are talking about propulsion technology that makes our nuclear engines look like firecrackers. It didn't just drift, it turned. It corrected its course. And that new course is not a collision, it is a rendezvous. The object is now scanning us. The James Webb Space Telescope has captured footage that remains classified, showing the object rotating in a rhythmic, deliberate pattern. It is sweeping the Earth, measuring our atmosphere, our radio output, our technological signature. It is building a profile. But 2 weeks ago, the silent observation stopped, and the active transmission began. This is the seeding. The object began blasting data across every wavelength we can monitor. And the first packet was simple. Prime numbers, a handshake, a way of saying, we know you are intelligent enough. To understand this, the second packet was a map. It showed the Milky Way from the outside, a perspective no human has ever seen. It highlighted our sun, but it also highlighted 14 other stars. And when we cross-referenced those stars, the room went silent. Every single one of them hosts a planet in the habitable zone. Every single one has emitted transient radio anomalies. In the last century, signals we detected and dismissed as glitches. We were wrong. They weren't glitches. They were pings. We are not alone. We are part of a network. We are on a list of 15 worlds that have reached the same technological adolescence at the same time. We are the class of 2026, and 3I Atlas is the proctor. I have spent the last few nights staring at that star map, thinking about those other 14 worlds. Are they looking at the same data right now? Are they panicking? Are they rejoicing? Or have they already transcended Maybe some of those stars are graveyards. Maybe some of those civilizations failed the test. Maybe 3i Atlas visited them, saw that they were too violent or too primitive, and simply moved on, leaving them alone in the dark forever. Then came the third packet. This is the one that changes everything. This is the one that proves this isn't an invasion, it's an intervention. The transmission wasn't math, and it wasn't a map, it was biology. The stream contained massive amounts of genomic data, DNA, sequences. They matched human DNA, but with deliberate, engineered modifications. It looked like an upgrade. We saw sequences for enhanced neural architecture, brains capable of processing information 1,000 times faster than ours. We saw codes for optimized immune systems capable of scrubbing out every known virus. We saw cellular regeneration markers that could extend the human lifespan by centuries. The question that haunts me, the question that keeps me awake at night is this a gift or is it a replacement? When a farmer plants a field, he watches the crops, he waits, and if the crops are struggling, sometimes he intervenes. He adds fertilizer, he modifies the soil. 3i Atlas might be the gardener. It has watched us struggle. It has watched us build nuclear weapons, poison our atmosphere, and fight over invisible lines on a map. It has seen that we are on the brink of self-destruction, and now it is offering a patch. It is sending the code for a better version of humanity, but evolution is brutal. Evolution requires the old to give way to the new. Are we the beneficiaries of this data, or are we the obsolete model that is about to be phased out? The timing is too precise to be accidental. 3i Atlas will reach its closest approach, its perigee, on March 14th. Pi Day 3.14, Universal Time 2119. The mathematics of the arrival date is a message in itself. It is a deadline, and we have until that date to demonstrate something: worthiness, readiness. I don't know the criteria of the test, but I know the governments of the world are reacting. You might have noticed the news cycle changing. You might have noticed the sudden silence on international disputes or the quiet mobilization of assets. This isn't preparation for war with each other. This is the frantic, terrified preparation of a species realizing it is about to be judged behind closed doors. They are debating whether to jam the signal or to amplify it. They are arguing over who owns the genomic data. They are doing exactly what a primitive species does when faced with the divine. They're trying to monetize it, but 3i Atlas doesn't care about our economies. It doesn't care about our borders. It cares about our potential. And right now, our potential is hanging in the balance, and there is a theory in astrophysics called the Great Filter. It suggests that the reason we don't see aliens everywhere is that civilizations tend to destroy themselves shortly after they discover technology. We invent the bomb before we invent the wisdom to control it. And 3i Atlas might be the filter. It might be the mechanism that checks if we have the wisdom, and if we don't, if we try to shoot it down, if we try to hoard the data for weapons, then maybe the gardener decides the crop is rotten. Maybe the observation ends and the quarantine begins. But there is another possibility, a possibility that fills me with a strange, terrifying hope. What if we are not fading? What if the very fact that we are receiving this data means we have already passed the first round? What if the resonance you feel, that headache, that anticipation, is part of the upgrade? The biology packet didn't just contain data for test tubes. It contained frequency modulations that interact with the human nervous system. Some of us think the seeding isn't just digital. We think it's atmospheric. We think the object is literally tuning us, preparing us for what comes next. If you feel it, if you feel that vibration, do not ignore it. It might be the most important sensation of your life. It might be the waking up of a dormant part of your DNA, a receiver that has been asleep for thousands of years, waiting for this specific signal. March 14th is coming. it is immovable on that day. The object will be close enough to do whatever it came here to do. Maybe it will simply upload the rest of the data and leave, letting us decide what to do with the blueprints. Maybe it will land, or maybe it will do nothing, having judged that we aren't ready, and move on to the next star on the list, leaving us alone in the dark forever. I don't know which outcome scares me more. I am asking you to stay vigilant. The sensation of being watched is not in your head. The data is real. The timeline is real. The seeding has begun, and the harvest is coming in March. We have spent our entire history shouting into the void, asking, is anyone out there? Well, someone answered. And now we have to deal with the consequences. Keep your eyes on the sky, and for the sake of our species, keep your minds open, because the world we knew 3 days ago is gone, and the new one is arriving faster than the speed of light, and the observation is over. The participation has begun. Are you ready?